We interrupt this program to bring you an important Wayfair message. Wayfair's got style tips for every home. This is Styles McKenzie helping you make those rooms sing. Today's style tip. When it comes to making a statement, treat bold patterns like neutrals. Go wild, like an untamed animal print area rug under a rustic farmhouse table from Wayfair.com. Fierce. This has been your Wayfair style tip to keep those interiors superior.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
This is the 5th episode in our latest season covering missing persons and unsolved homicides across the southeastern United States, and our 2nd episode in a series covering the unsolved homicide of Princeton Morris. This episode discusses substance use, violence, crime scenes, and homicide. Listener discretion is advised. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed are solely the interviewee's own. All individuals are presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. This is The Fall Line. Last time, we brought you back to our home state of Georgia to cover the case of Princeton Morris, who was murdered in 2022. Princeton was shot in his own apartment in East Point after answering the door. We told you that the metro Atlanta area, a sprawling network of cities and suburbs spreading across several counties, is home to East Point. East Point sits 7 or so miles south of Atlanta's city center. And like many communities here, it's a mix of a lot of things: revitalization and challenge and change. It's where 34-year-old Princeton was living in 2022 with his girlfriend and his dog in an apartment on Kentucky Court. Princeton had split his childhood between Greenville, North Carolina, and Atlanta, where he'd lived all over the metro and attended several schools. According to his oldest sister, Kay, they'd gone through some hard times. First, it was living with relatives and in foster care while their mother was working and establishing a home for them out of state. Then there was a stepfather who'd been allegedly abusive to Princeton. Her brother was loving and extremely bright and protective of his mother and his 3 sisters, Kay, Myra, and Divine. Kay told us that Princeton was looking for love and to be loved and for escape. That led to alcohol dependency in his teens that followed him into adulthood. But it never changed his commitment to his family and his special care for his young nephew, Kay's son, and for his baby sister, Divine. Princeton's eldest sister, Kay, enlisted in the military after her son was born. That meant she was serving and then deployed for a year while Princeton was back at home in Georgia. For a period, her own son lived with Kay's mother and her youngest sister, Divine, and they both got to spend a lot of time with Princeton. When Kay returned home and moved her small family out of state, she said that Princeton was heartbroken because those connections were so important to him. He sought that love through friendships and then relationships and was willing to put in his all for the people he cared about, feeding them and giving them somewhere to stay, giving whatever he had. When he secured an apartment for himself and his girlfriend, who was another person he was focused on supporting, at the Lexington apartment complex in East Point, Kay was living with her family in California. But she stayed in regular contact with her brother. She also continued to worry about his drinking. The whole family did. She also appreciated how passionate he was about the things that he loved, like cooking for people and taking care of everything around him. He even started gardening at his apartments in East Point. He lived at 2 different units at the complex at Kentucky Court, and he grew his own flowers and edible plants at both. That was just Princeton. Wherever he went, he wanted to tend to things. Kay talked to us about his care for plants and his family and his beloved dog.
My brother had actually started growing his own garden. We didn't know anything about that, And in his adulthood, that's what he ended up doing. He loved it. He loved taking some fresh vegetables and making a meal. He loved to barbecue, was something that he always had us over for. He was normally going to be cooking up something on the grill.
Kay said that having Princeton over meant inviting his dog too, because as far as he was concerned, his pet was like his child.
He was a huge lover of dogs. And so whenever he went somewhere, he had a dog named Dolce. She was always coming. She was part of the family. And so sometimes it was hard to invite him to events because, you can't these are no pets allowed type events. And my brother's like, well, if she can't come, she's part of the family. I can't come. Like he would stand 10 toes down for this dog. He had her for years. Rescued her from the animal shelter right downtown in Atlanta. I don't care where my brother was. The only place she wasn't going with him is to work. He loved that dog.
As we told you last episode, Princeton did consistently work, but he changed jobs often, not necessarily by choice.
It was definitely hard for him to hold down jobs, of course, because, he would end up in jail for a DUI or something, or just foolishness. It was definitely pretty hard for him to have a stable employment.
For a long time, that was the state of things for Princeton Morris. He spent a lot of time caring for everyone and everything, but he also had struggles, some issues like DUIs. And as Kay said, problems maintaining long-term employment in the food industry jobs that he enjoyed. Even so, we found comments on social media from former employers who said that they'd hired Princeton multiple times at different restaurants. According to his youngest sister, Divine, that was no surprise. Princeton was just like that. People loved him, even if he ran into trouble. While Princeton was living at the Lexington Apartments in East Point, he'd had a few issues with his units. As we told you before, he'd lived in at least 2. And according to his sisters, he'd told them that he'd had practical problems, like with apartment maintenance and concerns about crime in the neighborhood. In 2021, there'd been a break-in in his own apartment, and he'd been attacked and robbed. It's an event that we don't have many details about, except that it raised his concerns even more. He talked about moving in the past, but in 2022, he was more motivated to do so. That's because, according to both Kay and Divine, his girlfriend had allegedly announced that she was pregnant. They remember that he was excited. He'd always wanted to be a father. Divine said that her older brother became motivated to focus on getting sober and working as much as he could to save money so that he could move his family to a different complex, one that he felt would be safer. As for Kay, she said that when she spoke to her brother, she could tell that he was experiencing a mix of emotions.
He was worried, but he was also excited. He was working at Longhorns, I believe, but he was also picking up side jobs. My brother was a caregiver. He wanted to be a provider too. And so he was trying to pick up all these side jobs. I remember him sending me messages to, be references for him because he was trying to earn enough money to accomplish his goals. I didn't even find out he wanted to move until after his death. He was always trying to do something better. That one I know. I actually had tried to encourage him to move to California with me, but he wouldn't do it because he didn't want to leave behind his girlfriend at the time.
Did you get the impression that he felt like where he was living was unsafe, or did he just feel like he wanted something like a little nicer?
Yeah, there was actually mold in his apartment, and there was quite a few deaths in the neighborhood. And so, yes, he definitely wanted to get out of that.
But it seems that Princeton hadn't told his older sister the whole story. It was only later, when she spoke to other family members, that she discovered that he'd mentioned even more pressing concerns. Princeton was close to his cousin, who lived in town, and with his mother, Chandra, too. And when Kay spoke with them later, she found out that he'd been having issues with some of his neighbors that May. Apparently, he'd been accused of hitting someone's car in the parking lot, and he'd received some threats. It was enough to make him worried about personal safety and about leaving his girlfriend and his dog, Doce. He started to take precautions. Instead of leaving his truck in the front of the building, he began to leave it around the back. That way, it was harder to tell if he was home. And Kay told us that for Princeton, it was pretty extreme. He wasn't someone to worry about minor issues. But according to what she heard, he was nervous enough to begin the process of moving. She wishes that he would have told her that people were angry with him, talked to her about his fears.
I know my cousin who my brother hung out with, all the time, had, I guess, extra information, and my mom had extra information, but I don't know why my brother never told me what was going bad or wrong. I felt like sometimes he wanted things to be better, so he would hide things from me. I think that maybe that's why he didn't tell me what was going on.
Although Princeton's youngest sister, Divine, was with him in Metro Atlanta, she said that she didn't spend any time at his apartment. She and her mom would either pick him up or he'd come over to their house to visit. He was concerned about their mother, Chandra, who was having health issues, and Divine said that he stopped by often to check in and to bring over different natural remedies that he'd researched.
I was living with my mother at the time, and he would come and visit the house. Him and his girlfriend, he'll talk to me, ask me what I'm doing, how's, work or whatever the case may be. Actually, the last time I saw him was a week before he had passed. He had came to the house and he dropped off some aloe vera leaves for my mother because she has rheumatoid arthritis. So he was trying to come up with some stuff to help her with arthritis.
When she saw Princeton, Divine said that he didn't talk about his concerns regarding conflicts at the apartment complex or express any fears for his safety. He was just there to help take care of their mother. He seemed to want to protect both his sisters from worry. He did tell his mother a little, though, as she later explained to several news outlets, but in a more general way, with a focus on moving. The family didn't know everything else until it was too late. Mother's Day 2022 fell on Sunday, May 8th. To celebrate the holiday, Kay invited their maternal grandmother out to California for a visit. And it was a time when the family was in frequent contact, no matter where they were in the country. And Princeton, he was no exception.
My grandmother was visiting the week before. It was Mother's Day weekend. We went out to a concert. My brother was trying to call me to tell me Happy Mother's Day. But I couldn't answer because, I'm in this concert and it's very loud. But my grandmother, she didn't care. She answered when he called her. So, and so he sent me a text because I didn't answer. He just said, I just wanted to tell you Happy Mother's Day. The following week, I was on the phone with my mother and we were just talking, and it's so funny because we were just, talking about Princeton and, and his personality. And I hung up the phone with her. Because, it's getting late and they ended up calling back. We got a call from my cousin and a call from my mom's husband at the time that you just hear my mom just screaming. And one of my cousins that he was really close to, that my brother was really close to, went to his apartment and he confirmed that my brother was gone. I think I was in such disbelief, like, what do you mean? What do you mean he was shot? Like, who would want to shoot him? He was at home. They said he was at home. Like, who would come to his house, just to do that? And of course, I felt so far away. And I think I didn't actually honestly believe it until I kept calling him. I kept going to voicemail.
That was May 17th, just 9 days after Mother's Day, and Princeton's missed call. As best as we can put together from the documents we've been able to review, what the family has learned, and a few scattered news articles, both Princeton and his girlfriend were home that night. Based on that information, Princeton's girlfriend was in the main bedroom using their computer. Princeton was lying on the couch, probably napping in front of the television. It was just after 9 when someone approached the patio. To fully understand what happened next, you have to have a sense of the layout of Princeton's home. He lived on a lower-level apartment with a front door on an interior hall. His back door, however, could be approached by anyone. All they'd have to do was enter the area from his patio and knock on the sliding glass doors. When we spoke with Kay, she explained the layout of the apartment.
So they had a small 2-bedroom apartment. My brother was supposedly asleep on the sofa in the living room. She was in the main bedroom on the computer in there. And so the way that it's set up, when you go through the front door, of course, you have your living area. There's the kitchen. And then you have to, when you turn to the right, there's a little short, maybe 3-foot hallway. And when you turn to the left to go down that hallway, there's the main bedroom. I've heard people have came to his back door sometimes. It's easy to walk up to.
From what Princeton's family knows, it was normal for friends to approach their apartment from the back door versus the front, a kind of shortcut since it meant skipping a walk through the main apartment entrance. But that night, it might have also provided the person who arrived a quick escape. While Princeton's girlfriend could hear what was happening from the bedroom, she would not have had a sight line. And for Princeton to actually see who'd approached, that late at night, Kay thinks he'd actually have to go to the back door. And someone did rouse Princeton with a knock on the sliding door that evening. We know that much because his girlfriend reported that she'd heard him speak to someone who seemed to be standing at the back threshold. Who that was, she didn't know. Based on what was reported, the conversation that was overheard was not friendly. To our knowledge, the particulars of that conversation were never shared, but there was a general sense of the tone, and Princeton and the unknown visitor exchanged heated words. Then there was a gunshot. When Princeton's girlfriend made it to the living room, he was on the ground, and whoever had been there was gone. At that point, Princeton could barely speak.
I know that he knew who it was. He said it was actually a conversation outside. And so whoever it was, he knew who it was before he was shot. The words that I was told he said was, they shot me. But that was it.
According to Fox 5 News, a 911 call came in from Princeton's apartment at about 9:20 p.m. It was placed by his girlfriend. Kay received a recorded version of the call from East Point Police. As we told you last episode, we did reach out to the department but did not receive a response. So, we asked Kay to tell us about what she heard in the recording.
I actually listened to the 911 call. She had to call them a couple of times because they weren't there. She kept asking, how long is it going to take for you guys to get here? And you can hear the cops saying that they're lost, and which was interesting because they go to that apartment complex all the time. And so it's like, what do you mean you're lost?
When police did arrive, the scene was chaotic and bloody. In addition to the incident report and 911 call, Kay also received a copy of the responding officer's body cam footage. But she says that she has never been able to bear actually viewing it. Her husband did watch it for her, though, to see if there was anything of evidentiary value that might help them find Princeton's killer. But he couldn't find any clues that he thought would help solve the crime. Nothing, really, past what we could get from the incident report. That document is brief, and that's true of nearly all initial incident reports, and would not be indicative of the whole of Princeton's file. Our FOIA was denied, so we don't have any record of who was interviewed later in the investigation, but we can share that initial report. In the following statement, which makes up the whole of it, we've only redacted the specific address. That's in order to protect the privacy of current residents. It does describe, though, what officers found when they arrived at the apartment. Quote, on 5/17/2022, at approximately 21:26, I, Officer M. Jester, responded to Kentucky Court in reference to a person shot. It should be noted that the report of this incident was recorded via body camera. Upon arrival, I observed a black male, Princeton Morris, laying in the hallway, unconscious and not breathing, with a single gunshot to his chest. Fire Rescue 2 and Engine 4 arrived on scene to medically assess Princeton. Detective Slaughter and Detective Watts were notified of the incident. Crime scene tech herd arrived on scene for processing. End quote. Evidence indicated that Princeton had been shot in the patio area and then moved farther inside, where he collapsed. According to WSB-TV, Princeton, quote, was pronounced dead at the scene inside his home. That would have been around 9:30 p.m., not long after Princeton's girlfriend had called for help. But it would be close to 2 hours before his mother got the news. Princeton's girlfriend may have been delayed due to questioning by authorities or a search of the apartment. At around 11 p.m. that night, she was able to reach out to Chandra.
But yeah, after she called the police, she called my mom. And my mom was actually in North Carolina at the time. Needless to say, it was a very long drive back for her because they didn't fly, they had drove.
The only other relative their mother could immediately reach, besides their cousin, who was headed straight to Princeton's apartment, was Kay.
I immediately booked my flight to go back home.
Myra, the middle sister, woke up to dozens of missed calls and texts. Divine, who you'll recall was still living with her mother at the time, was home alone. And when someone was finally able to reach her, she said that she was in shock. She couldn't make sense of what she was being told.
This was out of the blue, actually. Completely out of the blue. When I got the call, I was home alone, actually, when I got the call that he passed. I thought it was a joke. I thought it was a terrible joke, actually, when I got the phone call.
As for Kay, she was stunned, in disbelief. She had to get back to Atlanta as soon as possible. And when she arrived, she said, it was difficult to discover what exactly was happening. The morning after Princeton's murder, Myra went straight to the apartment complex, and she tried to speak with neighbors to find out anything they knew. But no one had told her anything. And Kay, she headed straight to their mother's house and found her near catatonic with grief. From the very beginning, she said, Kay had issues discovering what law enforcement had told her family.
I just booked my flight and I went there and it was just chaos, My mom was just sick, You say that, parents don't have a favorite kid. My mom, I'm pretty sure her favorite kid was my brother. She was just sick and I didn't know what to do for that. I would have to come and visit her in the bedroom. She didn't, of course, take it very well. They talked every day, We were trying to stay in contact with the police. For some reason, the police, they never called her that night. She had to find out from the girlfriend at the time that, something had happened. The police, I think, didn't call her for another day or two. We were trying to hunt down the police because they were not calling us. And we were the family. And so it was just dealing with East Point. It's just kind of exacerbated, I think, the stress of the situation. And so it was just really chaotic with trying to get in contact with them, trying to, help take care of my mom, trying to figure out what happened, trying to put pieces together, going to clean out the apartment.
In the days following Princeton's death, she began to try and make sense of who might have shot him and why. That's when Kay discovered that Princeton had received some threats regarding a car accident in the apartment complex. But was that enough for someone to approach him and then kill him? Even to this day, she isn't sure. Her brother did not have long-standing rivals or enemies that she knew of, and this situation was recent. But he had been worried enough to park his truck around the back of the complex and to tell at least some friends and relatives about his plans to move. There was one other event related to his girlfriend that could have potentially drawn someone to their apartment, even if that person of interest was not actively targeting Princeton. Based on publicly available records, we were able to verify that very shortly after Princeton was murdered, his girlfriend was arrested for marijuana trafficking and booked into Fulton County Jail. She was released on bond, and we haven't found a trial date on record that coincides with that charge, so we can't determine if the charge was dropped. Princeton's family simply doesn't know, and they were not able to get further information from authorities. They aren't currently in contact with Princeton's former girlfriend, and we did not speak to her for this episode. To their knowledge, she never had a baby, and they haven't gotten further information from her regarding that night. In terms of Princeton's murder, if someone thought that there was anything of value in that apartment, legal or illegal, that could have provided motive to confront Princeton. It wouldn't matter if it was true or untrue. The belief could be enough. For her part, Divine feels that even if there had been illegal activity that drew outside attention, her brother would not have been involved, or even necessarily aware.
Him doing illegal activities, nah. He wouldn't even have time. He works like 3 or 4 jobs. There's no way in hell he has time to even do illegal stuff, in my opinion. I don't, if someone is working 3 jobs, hell, by the time I come home, I'm gonna be tired. There's no way he'd be doing other stuff outside of that. That's his thing. If he's working, that means he's staying out of trouble. And I love that for him. Because when I was younger, he was getting in trouble a lot. DUIs, wrecking cars, wrecking mailboxes. I remember he was on a spree, but I like that I saw him actually grew up into the man that I guess he was before he passed. And I wish I would have said, congrats, I'm proud of you for changing, a habit that's very hard to change.
Whatever the potential motive, authorities were lacking that major component in their investigation, and also tips as to who the shooter could have been. One thing that seemed clear, though, was that other people in East Point might know. In such a heavily populated area, in an apartment complex, and with rumors already flying, would it really have been possible for a shooter to escape, sight unseen? There was a call for tips, but no one came forward. In 2023, the East Point Police Department offered a $2,000 reward, and the family added an additional $8,000 for a total of $10,000. Their hope was that it would be enough for someone, anyone, to step up. So far, though, no one has. Perhaps their message just hasn't reached the right person. But it's been 3 years, and Princeton's family has had to figure out how to mark those days and those weeks and those months. His baby sister Divine talked to us about how she's managed.
He passed the week before my birthday. He passed on the 17th. My birthday is the 24th. So I really don't celebrate my birthday. I really just celebrate him. So on his passing, I'll do a balloon release or something. I'll have my sisters meet up, whether it's FaceTime or whatever, and do a little balloon release, say something that we couldn't say to him while he was here. We just let the balloons go. On his birthday, I tried to make something that he liked. He wasn't too big on sweets. So I think last year I did barbecue because he loves to grill. He loves to feed people, make sure people are full. A lot of what he did, it really instilled in me as far as wanting to take care of people and wanting to change and be a better person, all the other stuff. He has impacted a lot of things in my life, even after he passed. He gave me the confidence that I need to break away on certain things, whether if it's family or friends, the toxicity, all that stuff. He encouraged me to just let go and be at peace. So ever since then, I've been at peace. I've been doing things that he will want me to do. I know that he wouldn't want me to be sad. I know he want me to celebrate my birthday and all that other stuff. I know that he's the type of person don't worry about me. You need to worry about yourself. You need to worry about this and that. He always put other people before himself. And I kind of wish that it was just different, because I feel like he needed someone to worry about him and take care of him instead of him take care of everybody else.
One thing that Divine has been able to do for Princeton was to adopt his dog, Doche, and she's taken that role very seriously.
I feel like it was right for me to take Dolce, knowing that me and her already have a bond already, because I've been in her life as just as much as she has been in my life. So she's my baby. I take her everywhere. I know that he will want her to see things that she hasn't got the chance to see when he was taking care of her. So I try to give her the things that he wasn't able to give to her now. So all I do is just spoil and make sure however long she's going to live, that she's going to be happy. That's what I'm trying to give her. But when I see Dolce, I see him. That's how I see it. And it's just a reminder that, everything is okay, because, you got a little piece of him everywhere you go. Everywhere I go, I have a little piece of him. So whenever I'm sad, happy, or mad, or whatever the case may be, I have a piece of him. He's in a different place, or a different body, I don't know. I'm not really religious, but I don't know how to explain it, but it's like, it's a sign. It's a sign that he would give me whenever I feel like I'm on my wit's end, like I'm about to lose it, I'm about to break down, and I'd be like, God, just give me a sign. And it's like, it's a sign. He'll come as a cloud, or he'll come as a flower or something. And I just think it's so special. And sometimes he'll come as Dolce. So that's how I see it.
Divine says that she can't follow Princeton's case too closely because it's just too painful. But she hopes that the answers will come, and soon.
I haven't been really deep diving into his case like Kay have, because it's like an open wound. I feel like she's a lot tougher than me emotionally to deal with those things. Really, my older sister, she's really putting her foot down and try to do anything that she can to find, the story, what's going on. Like, she's the one who found you guys, and I just thought it was a great idea to do something like this to spread the word and all that stuff, because he's just an amazing person. That's all I have to say. And people outside of his family would tell you that he's an amazing, kind individual, and he really cares for the people he cares for, his family, his friends, whatever the case would be. He's an amazing brother. He would have been an amazing father. When he passed, it hurt us in ways that I don't know some of us may not recover, So I just hope whoever's listening to this, I just hope it touched them enough for them to speak out and say something. It's not going to hurt them. It just gives us some type of closure and comfort that, we got something, whatever it may be.
As for Kay, the oldest, the one who's been there to help take care of her siblings for a long time, she's determined to pursue Princeton's case until she gets answers. Because that's the same kind of love that Princeton would show her, show anyone that he cared about. And he cared about a lot of people. That was his gift.
I think it's important to know that he was always trying to build relationships with people. People like to look at him for, some of the things that he was doing or seeing in his arrest record. But I feel like that was just all a symptom of his story, honestly. He was honestly a different person. Even some of his classmates that have kind of reached out, they just said the same thing. He just had a really big heart. Some of the people that knew him in his community, said he was always trying to help the kids and playing basketball with them and just being himself. For me, that was him being himself.
Every member of Princeton's family is waiting for justice in his case, now 3 years delayed. As his mother, Chandra, told Fox 5 in March of 2024, she knows that, quote, finding her son's killer won't bring him back, but she says that getting him off the street would bring her family immense relief. As she explained then, it's vital, quote, just to know that that person who did it is no longer walking in the street, can never hurt another person again. The family hopes that the $10,000 reward might be enough to encourage anyone with information to come forward with anything they may have seen on May 17th, 2022, or heard since that could help bring Princeton's murderer to justice. If you have any information in Princeton's case, please call Crime Stoppers Atlanta at 404-577-TIPS or 8477. You may be eligible for a $10,000 reward. Next time on The Fall Line, a deep dive into the anniversary of forensic investigative genetic genealogy. If you know of a case that should be featured on The Fall Line, there's a link to our case submission form in the show notes. Thank you for listening. The Fall Line is an independent podcast, and we appreciate listener support. If you try out the products we advertise, please use our sponsor codes. It really helps. And please take a moment to rate and review our show on your podcast app of choice. If you listen on Apple Podcast, please be sure to check your subscription to make sure you're set for automatic downloads so you don't miss an episode. My book, Lay Them to Rest, is available anywhere you get books and through your local library. Find out more in the link in our show notes. And if you'd like to support the show and the stories we cover, join us on Patreon or Apple Premium. Through both platforms, you can gain early, ad-free access to our episodes. The Fall Line's Patreon and Apple Premium support our Family Therapy Fund and actively pay for therapy for families who've appeared on the show. The Fall Line is written, hosted, and researched by Laurah Norton, with additional research assistance by Melissa Gold, interviews by Brooke Hargrove, produced, engineered, and scored by Maura Curry, content advisement by Vic Kennedy and Brandy C. Williams. Special thanks to Liz Lipka.